Hello and welcome to this episode of In the Loop. Today, IA publisher Gary Robinson travels to the Isle of Man to meet Sean Christian, MD, Wealth Division and Interim COO at Canada Life UK.
Thank you for inviting me into your office in the currently being rebranded, beautiful looking under the scaffolding, the rebranding going on with the new logos and everything here in at Canada Life International in the Isle of Man. Tell me a little bit about you. We're here, it's November 2025. The man of many titles. Tell me about so you've got a few different titles. Tell me what's that all about and how are they different?
Yeah, thanks, Gary. I've been at Canada Life now. In the summer it was 20 years, so quite a long time in the one business. As you know, prior to that, I was at Zurich. Things have changed probably over the last 5 or 6 years. So for probably 15 years, I was running the international business and continued to still be responsible for the international business. However, 2019, I think it was, we created our wealth business for Canada Life UK, and that incorporates the international business, but also our onshore wealth products. And I was asked to head that up. So I've been doing that since 2019. And then in June this year, I was asked to become the interim chief operating officer for Canada Life UK. So we're wearing 2 or 3 hats at the moment, but it's great. Taking on the operations side of the business for our UK business, it gets me closer to the customer, even closer to what I was doing previously, which was still very close, running the wealth division and working with advisors around the country. But I think you get a much better insight into what's working, what's not working, where do we need to improve, and how can we ultimately move forward modernizing our business, which is going to be our focus over the next 2 or 3 years.
Fantastic. Now, let me ask you about, we're here in the Isle of Man today. Where do you operate from and how does that all work? Because
yeah, it's a good question. I probably typically spend at least a couple of days in the UK business. And that works actually wearing those different hats that I've talked about, because I recognize that we're distributing to customers and advisors in the UK. So I think the days of, a CEO running an international business being based in the Isle of Man or Ireland and not visiting the market that you serve are long gone. So I like to spend quite a bit of time over there. The majority of my teams that sit outside the Isle of Man and Dublin are in the UK. All our distribution team is in the UK, and then the wider responsibilities of the chief operating officer role, I think that comes with about 600 staff, and most of those, again, are in the UK. So I split my time. I get to spend a lot of time going backwards and forwards, but actually that could be quite productive time to read papers, to clear the emails, to catch up on things ahead of the meetings that typically you're involved in when you're in the UK.
Now, your home is here on the island, and you're very proud of the Isle of Man, aren't you? You've always struck me as someone who's very proud of Wales. What is it that you love about being here, having your home here?
Yeah, I have over the years been very passionate about the island. I think I always view myself as very lucky to be able to do what I do living on the island. And, I think outside work, I think it's the work-life balance that you can get. So whilst hours are long typically working, I live, a mile or two from the office, and, quite quickly I can be out on my bike in the summer months and into country lanes and having a cycle in the evening, which, that isn't something that everybody can do if you're working in a big city and you've got a long commute. So I would never underestimate the benefit of that. That's fantastic. But I think also if you look at, the various sectors that we have on the island and the way the island has progressed over many decades, it was heavily focused on financial services and still is, but we've got a thriving gaming industry. We've got a manufacturing sector on the island. there are so many opportunities, and I think if somebody's wanting to build a career, and especially an international career that gets to see other places, other countries, which I was fortunate enough to have when I worked for Eagle Star International, which became Zurich International, and I've had some of that exposure as well at Canada Life. Whilst we're focused on the UK, in this business, we're a global business, and there's opportunities to see other parts of the group in other places. So it's a great place to live. It's a great place to bring up the family, and it's a very safe place. So all in all, there are worse places to set up home.
No, absolutely. I've grown fond of the island actually over. I've been coming backwards and forwards nearly 10 years now. So it's like, good God, where did that time go? It's crazy, isn't it? I remember the first time coming into here. That would be 8-9 years ago. Very firmly in the distant memory, I would say. Tell me about. Many congratulations, first of all, on Canada Life winning the best international life office UK. It's been a battle between two companies, and this is your year. Many congratulations on that. We'll talk about that award. What does it mean to win the awards, and why are awards like that important?
Yeah, they're really important, and thanks for continuing with the awards. I think it's a very important part of doing what we do, and to receive that recognition is extremely important. It's extremely important for all the people connected with our business and all our colleagues. It's been an extremely busy 12 months in this organisation, and teams have worked extremely hard to process the volume of business that we've been receiving, and I think it's just great recognition for all those efforts across our business. You and I have joked about that award. I call it the big one to win. I think we probably are the company that's won that award the most since it's been running. We lost out to Utmost last year, and fair play to them for winning that. But it's always pleasing to win it back, and yeah, I think it's great. We have a fairly large trophy cabinet downstairs that you had sight of as you came in, and we're always pleased to add to that.
Well, many congratulations, once again. You also picked up Best International Trust Product for the Wealth Preservation account. What that award and the trust side of the business, why is that an important part of the business for Canada Life?
Yeah, we were the first to bring that product concept to market. Well, probably best part of decade and a half, if not longer. And others have followed since, and there's 2 or 3 product variances in the market. I would say it's great recognition at this time because estate planning is front and center to every advisor and the customers that they represent, and it's a fantastic product that allows people to gift money into that trust structure, retain control of the money that they put into that. But once it's reached 7 years, then it's outside the IHT net. So with taxes increasing in the UK and pensions being caught, there's so many opportunities really for people to make use of the various structures that are around in the market. And our wealth preservation account, we view as market leading, and we're seeing a real uptick in sales this year.
I mean, talking about this year, it's you look at our website on II, you look at our sister title IA, and the stories, everything's Rachel Reeves. What's she gonna take next? There's a real, it's sort of a cash grab. It feels like from the current administration. It means that what you guys do, and what this industry does, and what it does around the world, is very much in the spotlight. People are leaving the UK, but it's also important, that these structures and these products, they're there for a purpose. They're there to be used. Is it giving you a real boost for business? How's it all looking?
Yeah, good question. We started to see an uptick in business probably the beginning of last year. Um, it's easy to forget, isn't it? It was only last year really where the change of government happened, and when it becomes clear that there probably is going to be a change in government, then advisors start to get busy with inquiries as to what might happen. So we started to see maybe from the middle of last year that business inquiries were certainly picking up. Then obviously Labour got in, and then there was the budget last year, which increased tax increases. But I think what many advisors were reporting back long before those tax increases came into play was that a lot of their bigger customers were almost predicting that was going to happen, and therefore they were taking advice ahead of the announcement, and structuring things appropriately. Of course, when the announcement was made, then the market really took off, and it's been growing, I think, ever since the budget last year. Three main drivers that I think everybody's particularly familiar with. One that gave a big boost to business in the first quarter of this year for most providers was the abolition of the res non-dom privileges that cohort had. There was a mad rush to structure things for those that were going to be caught from April 25. And then, of course, the other two tax increases, which is pensions being caught from 27 and the increase in capital gains tax, they're probably the more sustainable growth opportunities that we see moving forward. And pretty much every inquiry that we're getting is typically looking at those types of tax increases, and customers therefore taking action to structure their financial arrangements in order to mitigate some of that tax burden where they legitimately can, but also plan ahead and think about how can they gift to generations within their family in a very tax efficient manner. And of course, the international bond that's been around in the market for the best part of 40 years, that lends itself perfectly well to achieve those outcomes for customers.
Now, you mentioned the advisors, and one thing that we do as a third-party organization, we act to, we're a kind of shop window for companies like yourselves, and technical expertise, and also when we do our events, we do feature heavily on the technical side, and it's something that I think Canada Life International in particular has been I've got to say market leading, because when we do our UK event, you guys have supported it from day one. In fact, Sean, if you go back all the way back, you supported it before it even got launched.
That's right.
I remember you. You were very keen to sort of see that happen, and we're very grateful for that ongoing support. But one thing that stands out from our delegate feedback is that technical expertise. Why is it important for you to have those people on board, and how do they stay ahead of all the the changes? How does it work within the organization?
Yeah, I think it's really important to have a sizable technical team. It's where we see that we can add real value to an advisor. So, one example would be I met with a big advice firm in Manchester not so long ago, and a lot of their business leads come from accountancy networks, legal networks within the northwest of England. And what was played back to me was that there's quite a lack of understanding across the accountant networks and the legal networks of the ins and outs of an international bond. And it can be quite easy to forget that it can be quite a complex product at times. So we've offered our technical team to that firm to effectively run workshops for the community that actually provide the business feeds into that particular advice business. So I think that's a good example of where, we can work in partnership with an advisor in order to generate the business and the interest in what that advice firm can offer. And I think over the years, our industry has been quite quick to cut back on those areas. We've done the opposite. We've purposely tried to grow our technical team, and we have grown that team. And we've got individuals in that team that have probably got 35 years plus experience each. So, what they don't know about an international bond, frankly, isn't needed. You don't need to worry about it. And we think it's certainly a massive positive in terms of what we take to market.
I think and the one thing that, again, I'm talking about our II Connect event. One thing that stands out about that event, we work in collaboration with you guys on the case studies. So we'll work with David White, QB Partners, and we'll work with
John Chu and
John Chu, and it's amazing how that hits home. We do I don't think you've been to one of, you must try and come to one of the events, but we have actors live on stage, that play out the case study. It's kind of, a bit of fun, but the energy in the room where the groups that get together and work out, how to deal with this live case study, it's just fascinating to see.
Yeah, case studies are a big part of that technical offering, and that's pretty much how we approach it, whether it's the webinars that we have on our website, whether it's the face-to-face technical sessions that we roll out to market. We tend to base them around case studies, and I think that's what advisors value from Canada Life, that we can provide them with that regular feed off and case studies that they can then start to decide which cohorts of their customer base does that particular scenario fit with. And, no two customers are the same. I'm always in admiration of how advisors, serve their entire customer base, because everybody's does have completely different needs. And I think if we as a product provider can provide as many different case studies on how the international bond can be used to provide the solutions that their customers are after, then I think that's why where we are in the market, and why the proposition is valued by UK advisors.
Absolutely. Well, it's the 5 minutes with is up. Thanks, Sean, for your time today, and thank you for supporting II and IA across the years. Long may it continue.
Thanks for watching or listening wherever you get your podcasts. Join us again next time for In the Loop.